Are you tired of hearing that the only way to invest in AI is your big names like your NVIDIA, TSMCs, and your AMDs? Well, what if I told you that some of the most exciting opportunities in AI are actually hiding in plain sight away from the usual tech giants? Today, we're going to dive deep into the AI ecosystem to uncover the hidden gems that can actually revolutionize your investment strategy. Stay tuned to discover AI investment opportunities that go beyond just chips and hardware. Let's get right to it. So when a lot of people think about AI, they just think about NVIDIA as a way to get in, right? They don't even go as far as some of the other ones I talked about, like AMD or TSMC. They're just like, oh, I missed the boat on NVIDIA, so I'm never going to be able to invest in that. I guess I got to find the next fad, without realizing there's a whole ecosystem and a bunch of sectors that are not only utilizing AI, but are actually the backbone of AI. Did you know that Oracle, which is owned by Larry Ellison, who's a mega billionaire that has his own freaking island, is actually the brains behind TikTok, or better yet, they're the data center and storage for TikTok. So Oracle actually went to Congress and said, please don't ban TikTok, because that's a huge sector of our market. So if you're an investor that doesn't really know all these things, you may be like, oh, I'm gonna invest in Oracle because they're doing stuff with AI, without realizing that a pretty nice piece of their pie might be getting pulled away by the government if TikTok gets banned. That's why I encourage you guys to watch these videos so you can understand the big picture behind stocks in the market and investments, and not just fall for the okie doke. To put it in perspective, have a look at this image. This is all of the actual whole landscape and sectors behind machine learning, AI, and data. Like, that is a lot. And most of you only focus on this small little sliver down here, which is the compute section, which has NVIDIA and some of the other major players in it, without realizing that it is a huge investment opportunity around AI. And let me just break it down to simplify these things, because if we're thinking about AI like the human body, a lot of us are like, okay, chips. We're thinking about microchips, which is the brain that kind of powers AI, right? But if we think about the human body, well, if you have a brain, you probably have a stomach as well. So that storage is when we get into the actual cloud computing providers, and we start thinking about things like Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud and Microsoft Azure and IBM Watson and some of the other major players in cloud computing. So to keep it very simple, all of these AIs are just large language models. Think of them like a big library that stores the data that these AI brains need to access to answer our queries when we type in, oh, how do you do so-and-so in the chat GPT. They need to store that stuff somewhere. Like I said before, Oracle is the actual database or cloud services provider for TikTok. Think about how much data TikTok has on you in China. Kind of scary, right? I think the government thinks that, but that's another thing to jump into if you want to get alternate investments into AI. Start looking into those cloud computing services that are actually powering those AI brains. Another sector in the AI space that a lot of people don't think about is NLP, natural language processing, or better yet, the data analytics firms. Like, data is king. It never lies. It always tells the truth. Just imagine, like I said before, all the data that Oracle has to store on TikTok, or Facebook's cloud service provider, or iCloud for that matter. It needs to be sorted and made sense of, right? So you can actually use that data for actionable insights. And everybody uses analytics. Probably where you work at, they're using analytics to find out whether they should fire your butt for underperformance. They can look at the stats, right? What are your numbers? What does that look like? And it goes deeper into tech companies. Analytics are king, and there are lots of data analytic companies out there that are making a ton of money. So if you want to find alternative investments into the AI space, is going to give you even broader potential. Think about those data analytic firms as well. Dig into those. That's another play in the AI space. And if you want to dive even deeper, you can look at some of the AI software providers like IBM Watson and DeepMind that are going to be really providing that software for you to really ramp up your AI solutions, and that are a lot more powerful than ChatGPT and some of these other large language models that we're using as consumers. Dig into those as well. That's another lane. But before we dive any further, we got to talk about the elephant in the room that nobody's really thinking about. We got to talk about energy. So fun fact, did you know that ChatGPT 3, which is last year's model, used as much energy as 120 households last year? And that was really when ChatGPT was like the big boy on the block. Now look at Google Gemini and Claude and Meta AI, or whatever the heck they're calling it. They're out there now, and think about how much more power and energy is going to be consumed. So the real bottleneck in the AI space is going to be energy. So as an intelligent investor, you should really have your ear to the ground and be like, okay, what companies are talking about using alternative energy to actually power this AI and do things that are a bit more environmental friendly, but also more sustainable going forward and can work and expand with scale. Like there is an AI Environmental Impacts Act that's been passed by the government that's gonna really shape the future of AI. But as a smart investor, just pay attention to those companies that are doing things of AI and the energy consumption problem. Like I remember there's a computer sitting right here next to me, and I did a little project a couple of years ago with my son to build my own PC. Like I'm a Mac guy through and through. I worked for Apple forever, but I said, you know what? I want to get in on one of these NVIDIA GPUs and build a 3090 computer to start using Blender and to build my own large language model using Stable Diffusion to kind of play around with AI when it first was coming around. Well, that computer hasn't been on in months because every time I turn that daggum thing on, my energy bill goes up by like 10 to 15%. And that's just in my house. Just imagine the amount of energy it takes for Oracle to run TikTok. So pay attention to that, keep that in mind, and watch those companies. One other little smart play that I'll give you guys is that use sites like Unusual Whales to see where the congressmen and senators are actually investing in. That's what I'm doing. If I see them investing in these energy companies, I'm gonna start kind of following suit because believe it or not, there are Congress people that are up 300% on the year, but hey, they don't have any insider information, right? They're just smart and lucky in the market, but they beat the S&P 500 like 30 years straight. Pay attention to that. I'll do a video to really break it down, but that's the energy angle when it comes to AI and something to really pay attention to. We don't have to dive deep into data centers, but all of those computers and cloud service providers and servers actually need a place to store this huge amount of hardware that's draining all this power. So fun fact, Microsoft and OpenAI actually partnered together and invested like billions, if not trillions of dollars into building their own data centers where they're gonna be able to store a lot of this compute power and storage power that they need to power their large language models. The reason why that's important as an investor is that they're trying to take some of that money that they're spending away from NVIDIA, who owns the majority of the data centers and the chips in that space, and start developing their own. Like you've probably seen it. Microsoft's already announced their own AI microchip that they're actually going to be developing in-house. So if you're paying attention, start watching these companies as they come aboard and start to develop their own data centers or place to store this compute power. And you're going to start to see that shift away from NVIDIA. Like they had a great run. They've made billions, but companies really want to bring that stuff in-house. As a smart investor, that's something that you need to pay attention to. Another play on that can be REITs, or real estate investment trust. So there's ways for you to invest in a basket of data centers that are focused on powering these large language models, or AI for simple terms. So I'm always digging into that stuff as investors. Like in a future video, I'll break that down and we'll look at some of the top real estate investment trusts that are investing in AI. And the fun thing about that is I'm pretty sure it's about 95% that they have to give back in profits to investors as dividends like us to get some of the tax advantages that they get as real estate investment trusts. That's something that I'm super passionate about, and another alternative play for you to get involved in AI a lot of people aren't thinking about. Another AI play is going to be the Internet of Things and robotics. So think about like your smart speakers and smart lights and all the other things you have around the house. They're going to keep implementing AI to really improve and make those things smarter. Like I cannot wait until Apple makes Siri smarter, because she's been dumb as a box of rocks for years now. So those Internet of Things providers and smart home makers are going to really start digging into AI as well. So pay attention to that. And of course, robotics is going to use it. So if you're sitting here working in a warehouse or doing something that's manual labor intensive, they're training those robots to be smarter and smarter to take your job. I know there's a lot of people that feel like, oh, AI is coming to take my job. Not really, unless you are in one of those like, manual labor jobs. But for most people, what's actually going to take your job is somebody who knows how to leverage the power of AI to be 10 times more efficient than you are, but not just the AI itself. I'm going to continue to go deep on things like this that a lot of people aren't covering, right? They'll just say, buy NVIDIA because it's great, without realizing what else is happening in the sector. If you're hanging out with me, I'm going to take you a little bit deeper. And we're going to look at every angle to try to find our way in, because there's no such thing as a crowded marketplace if you know where to look. And our number one goal is to actually break those financial curses that we all have been going through, so we can leave more for our families than we die than just debt. This has been your boy, Michael T. Ragland. Thanks you for watching the video. I am out. Peace.